you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird,
And you got Jaime Fuego, yeah.
and we are here to review the new movie Drop. Now, this is a thriller from the mind of Kristopher Landon. Now, did he write and direct this, Fuego, or did he just
That was what right before we started this review, I wanted to double check because he wrote I think he co-wrote the Happy Death Day movies. I can't remember if he wrote Freaky Friday, but he did even a ton of stuff before those.
Freaky.
He did Disturbia, Blood and Chocolate. I mean, he's had his hand in genre for a long time, but he did not write this movie.
Okay.
And I think it kind of showed, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, we're going to jump in with our overall thoughts, then we'll talk about everything else in turn. And my overall thoughts are, I think it was a well-made movie. I think it was a well enough done thriller. I mean, in the vein of, Phone Booth and other such kind of one-location thrillers.
Totally.
The issue that I was having is, I think, so I'm in the process of getting tested for ADHD because I'm learning that is probably a thing for me that I never knew. And what I find now is in thrillers like this, after about a half hour, I'm like, okay, can we just learn who it is? Like, please, like, I just want to know and get this done with. Like, and it's not the fault of the movie, it's the fault of my impatience and because I guess, I don't know if that means it's not engaging to me, but it's not necessarily, I feel like I've seen this done before and not particularly differently either. Like the location is different, but it feels like something I've very much seen before, and it's just a matter of waiting for the reveal of who the baddie is, which is all that was the case here. And I actually did guess it very early on in the film.
I did too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those kinds of movies to me, which so to me it's just like, it's okay. If you haven't seen a ton of movies, you'll probably appreciate it more than those of us that have and have seen this thing before. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, it was, at the end of the day, it was serviceable. It was not bad by any means because I did like the performance from the two leads who were going on this date. I guess they're both primarily known to newer audiences as television actors. The girl, she was on the season of White Lotus. The guy, he's on 1923, which I think is one of those Yellowstone spinoffs or something. And they've each done a couple movies here and there, but they're not like household names. But I thought they were good. I liked their engagement with each other, and she has to carry a lot of it with the dynamic of what's going on. So I thought from a performance standpoint, it was pretty solid. But it was, as far as Kristopher Landon's track record goes, the most kind of by the numbers, uninteresting, lacking creativity and originality of pretty much anything else he's done, especially his more recent stuff, like even Freaky Friday, or Freaky, I should say, the R-rated take with Vince Vaughn, and the name of the actress is eluding me, but she was in Abigail. She's been in tons of other things, Lisa Frankenstein. But a lot of his other stuff is much more creative and unique, and this felt just kind of okay, not bad, it was good enough, but just his least interesting thing for me that I think he's ever been in the directorial chair for. So yeah, unfortunately.
I agree. And I could tell he tried to do some flourishes here and there, I liked the way the texts were portrayed on screen.
I did too. That was cool.
What I enjoyed about it is, we've seen texts brought onto screen before, right? Fading on and off. What I liked is he would purposely have dynamic angles and have the text interestingly filling the frame, not just it's not all written in the same font, just fading on one side of the screen or another. It was always a thing, there was always an angle, and the text would lay out in a particular way to sit in the frame really nicely. So that actually does take a little bit of skill and to make it eye-catching and pleasing. Moving a little bit further into, I kind of want to just go into the filmmaking because that was the thing that stood out the most to me. I did like a lot of the angles, but I specifically liked the decision, which when they did it the first time, I was like, huh. And then they did it a bunch more times, and I I found myself digging it. So at one point, what he does is he will isolate a character in the midst of the scene via lighting. And so like all the other lights will go out except for like a spotlight on a single character. So it really focuses in on them, and in a couple of instances they use that to make make the main character kind of feel really small in and amongst all the craziness going on around her. So those kinds of flourishes I was appreciating, but it was kind of going a ways to make up for what was a pretty rote story and setup kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can put some bells and whistles from a visual standpoint around the story and try to, dress it up and whatnot. But yeah, it is pretty straightforward and streamlined. I did like what you mentioned, though. There's even a scene with her in the bathroom where, the girls, I think, clear out and it's just her in there and all the lights drop out and the camera's zooming upward. So, I mean, yeah, from a stylistic standpoint, he was attempting to elevate what I think was kind of by the numbers script, as I mentioned earlier. And I guess we can hit the story really quickly because there's not really that much to tell. It was interesting how they started this movie, because I was running across town trying to get there, and I think I walked in as the opening scene was happening, and I was like, did I come into the wrong movie? Because there's a conflict amongst characters going down, and it's really intense. And and then it flashes forward to where our lead character is at this particular point or whatever. But so she has she's a single mother, our lead lady, and she is going on a date with this guy she's been talking to online for 3 months, and she's going to finally meet him in person, IRL, as the kids like to say, I guess. And so it's a long time coming. She's nervous. She has her sister that is going to watch her son for her, and so she goes to this fancy restaurant called Palace. And it's, just sitting up in the heavens practically. One of those just, gorgeous restaurants that's up in a skyscraper. So beautiful view of the city. She meets him. He's handsome. He's charming. All those good things. The cliche of the annoying waiter is there in place. And yet the intrigue starts to build when she starts getting these drop messages. And the drop messages can only be sent by somebody within, a 50 feet proximity or something. And so for that reason, she knows somebody who is attempting, and you see all this in the trailer, attempting to get her to kill her date is somewhere in the restaurant with her. And so that's where all the intrigue and the tension is slowly building itself. But aside from that setup, that's really, there's not much else that we can tell without spoiling stuff, like guessing who is responsible, like you had mentioned. So
yeah, and again, it's a very straightforward story. Like it's one of those stories that's kind of puddle deep, as we like to say on the channel, but it knows what it is, and it does it effectively enough. It's just it's as effective as movies like this can be, to me. I think it's just, it doesn't blow me away or anything, but these kinds of movies don't necessarily always blow me away. Phone Booth got me pretty good because it was the first one that I remember seeing that was sort of along these lines. But yeah, I mean, the story's okay. And you kind of hit on the acting earlier during your overall, and I can just piggyback on that and say, yeah, I think the two leads did a good job. It was interesting to see the dude's performance, because he had to just sort of almost silently react to all the crazy shit that this woman is doing on their date. And so you have to see that he has to have an arc using just kind of his facial expressions. And I felt like it kind of worked. Like it was paced out well enough where he was finally starting to get a little annoyed, round about the 20-minute mark and stuff. And it comes to a head kind of almost, at one point when he's almost had enough, and so I feel like they paced it out well, but in a lesser actor's hands, it could have come off really cheesy and annoying. But I think he did a really good job there, and I feel like the lead did a really good job too for what she had to go through. Like, again, it's such a weird and kind of annoying setup in my eyes, but the actors did really well with the material that they had.
Yeah, because he has to embody some nuance of confliction, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm attracted to this person, and I was so stoked to meet them, and yet, you can see the gears turning in his head of this broad's kind of crazy. Like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Mother Bear, just shifting into that mode and missing her son, and especially as the the strange, the stuff with her watch, all these different things starting to pile up, and he's picking up on all the clues that she's not being completely honest with him, and yet he still cares enough to try to stick it out. So yeah, I mean, as you said, in the lesser actor's hands, or more of the nuance, I guess, was in the writing of their characters and how they were directed to react in these weird instances in comparison with the actual narrative itself, I think.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And again, that direction comes down to Christopher Landon. So again,
Yeah.
he's doing what he can to try and elevate what is otherwise kind of a basic setup sort of thing.
Yeah, because he always gets great performances out of his cast, whether the Death Day movies or, Freaky or whatever else. But, yeah, I mean, it's PG-13. We definitely have to preface that. PG-13 Blumhouse has a very mixed track record, especially in the last few years.
I think it's definitely on the stronger side of the PG-13 Blumhouse we've gotten, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's still not anything that's gonna like knock your socks off, I don't think. So I mean, again, some younger viewers will probably be like, "Oh my god, that was amazing! I've not seen anything like that before," But those of us that have been around the movie scene for a bit longer, because I mean, look, it has to be acknowledged that the movie scene is changing. The new generation's coming in an unfortunate tidal wave, as the Minecraft movie is proving.
Dude, the theater I was in for that flick was just bonkers with energy, and not necessarily like the most endearing variety, but whatever.
But yeah, so I mean, overall, it's a good enough experience, and if you want sort of this is one that if you go to the theater, it's probably more worth going the first weekend than any other weekend. You get the kind of crowd oohs and ahs, which probably won't be there after the first weekend unless it somehow does massive numbers. But I unfortunately think that this is going to be one that is probably going to... Well, I don't know how much it costs, but I don't know. It's definitely not going to perform like Happy Death Day or Freaky.
No, unfortunately not, because it just doesn't stand out from the pack as much as those. Freaky had the gender and age swap thing and all of that.
Well, they're both laden with comedy. Not to cut you off, but that's the biggest difference to me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Happy Death Day had some like really deep heart to it, especially the second one, which gets me really stoked that it was mentioned on Bloody Disgusting, and like a brief little tangent to mention that they're finally moving forward on the third one in that franchise, which is really exciting to see. So
great,
yeah. And as far as the score goes, Bear McCreary, he's a very noteworthy name, and he
awesome.
does a lot of great stuff. Score didn't really stand out much for me in this one, unfortunately. There is an amusing moment with a piano player playing Baby Shark.
That was really funny. Like when that was set up, I was like, oh, I can't wait till that comes in somehow. Like, I'm so interested to see how that's accomplished. But yeah, that whole thing. Like again, there's some moments that play out very interestingly. So it is. But overall, it's just kind of basic. But still, I think it's definitely worth your time to watch.
Yeah, it was solid. I mean,
more
solid
so matinee price, but...
Yeah, and I mean, we saw this at a screen unseen, which you even mentioned to me. You're sure it's not a scream unseen, but I guess they just at AMC didn't denote it as like enough full-on horror to justify giving it that label. But I mean, Blumhouse is putting it out, so I thought that was kind of weird.
But it's true. It's not dissimilar from like the vibe of an Unlawful Entry, which isn't really, a horror movie either. You know what I mean? So I get it. If there had been, a bunch of, previous deaths or something that we found out about later or whatever, maybe so. But this, definitely not what I would consider a horror movie. Just thriller,
Definitely dramatic thriller.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. I think that's going to do it for our review of Drop. Let us know in the comments below. Thank you to Frost Communications for inviting us to the screening for this. We greatly appreciate it. And even though we saw it at the screen unseen, we still did get that invite. So shout out to them. We appreciate those invitations always. And yeah, guys, give this one a shot and let us know what your thoughts are. Come on back here and put it in the comments. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Jaime Fuego.
And remember, stay
Stay
scared.
scared.